The Six Dynasties period is also known as the Age of Disunion. Numerous Han-controlled families ruled parts of China over the course of the Six Dynasties period, and this is during a very consequential geographic shift that occurred in Chinese civilization from the ancient center in the northeast down to the south. And henceforth, the south, particularly southeastern China, became the center of governance and economics and the center of traditional Chinese art and culture. In southeastern China was the Yu region. It corresponds to present-day Zhejiang and Shanghai and Jiangsu. And this is where ceramic kilns have operated at least since the second millennium BCE. That's before even the Shang dynasty. Ceramic wares created in this historical region are called Yu-ware, such as this example. Most were gray-bodied in color. They were stonewares with glaze colors ranging from olive green to gray-green. Yu-ware is the oldest ceramic stoneware of hard, dense, and durable consistency. The chicken-headed ewer is another historic example of Chinese Yu-ware. An ewer is a pitcher or jug for holding water. Like the previous example, this is called Yu-ware because it was created geographically in the Yu region of southeastern China. And it's called stoneware because of the clay. Chinese Yu-ware that we know to be hard and dense and durable was accomplished in China through the innovative use of suitable raw materials that could be easily mined or processed from the igneous rock and volcanic soil. The igneous rock and volcanic soil were abundant, particularly in the southeastern provinces of China. These provinces were either part of the Yu region or near it. Again, these are places where ceramic kilns have operated at least since the second millennium BCE. It is important to address this word kiln. Kiln has two meanings generally in the study of art history. A kiln is an actual oven in which the ceramic objects are placed for many hours at extremely high temperatures. A kiln is also the name used to describe the entire site of operations, similar to a factory. The earliest glaze types of Chinese stoneware vessels, like this jar, developed serendipitously when wood ash from the fire fell onto the hot vessel's surfaces while they were in the kiln, and it melted into a glaze. This discovery led to the practice of mixing wood ash with clay and water to create liquid glaze, then dipping the ceramic vessel into the glaze, or evenly applying the glaze to the ceramic vessel with a soft brush, and then putting the vessel into the hot kiln for firing. Due to the iron content in the glaze mixture, the glaze would turn green in color, either a gray-green or an olive green. This gave rise to the development of celadon vessels, or greenware. Many Yu-wares were celadons. To make sure this is clear, technically this Six Dynasties jar has three classifications. It is Yu-ware because it was created geographically in the Yu region of southeastern China. It is stoneware because of the clay. It was made from the type of durable clay body known as stoneware. And it is celadonware or greenware because of the green color glaze. We can think of this as a proto-celadon or a celadon in the early stages of development because greenware and the celadonware did not develop fully until later in the Song dynasty. The same is true of the chicken-headed ewer. It has the same three classifications. It is Yuware because it was created in the Yu region. It is stoneware because of the clay, and it is celadon because of the green color glaze. During the Tang dynasty, in particular the early part of the Tang period, this was a very prosperous time economically. The international import-export economy, supported by the Silk Road, stretched from southern China to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. There were remarkable advancements in learning, science, and technology. The early Tang dynasty was one of the wealthiest periods of China's history, and to accompany that wealth was a flourishing of arts and culture. During the Tang period, Yuware production expanded commercially as international merchants sought valuable products to export and the demand abroad increased. The Yu region in southeastern China became a center of China's ceramic industry during this time, and the name Yuware emerged as a luxury name for fine ceramic exports. The Tang dynasty also coincides with the ruling class and wealthy families starting to drink tea. This tea bowl or teacup is from Qinglai. It's from the Sichuan province in southern central China, not far from the Yu region. Because of the increasing popularity of tea drinking among the wealthy class and the elite, there developed an interest in beautiful utensils for daily drinking and serving of tea. Ceramic wares for these purposes will continue to develop in the Tang and Song dynasties. Lastly, ceramics during the Tang dynasty in China also coincided with the rise of the Sizhou region. For many centuries, Sizhou was the namesake of white or gray-white color stoneware, an early prototype of the porcelain wares that we will see develop in subsequent centuries. These were decorated with a creamy white slip. They were created and used especially in northern China, and therefore Sizhou wares are associated especially with northern China. Sizhou wares, such as this example from the Tang dynasty, were actual predecessors of Chinese porcelain wares that would develop to perfection later in the Song dynasty. Most Sizhou wares came from the Ding kiln, where suitable white stoneware clay bodies were discovered and developed. This map shows all 5 of the classic kilns of China, notably during the Song dynasty. 3 of the classic kilns were in the north, in or around Sizhou, and the Ding kiln was the largest and most prolific in terms of output. Aside from the Ding kiln, there were 2 other kilns in the north, in or around Sizhou, the Ru kiln and the Jun kiln. In the south, the 2 classic kilns, both in the Yu region, were the Imperial or Guan kiln and the Longquan kiln or the Ge kiln. During the Tang dynasty, the Ding kiln was known for creating wares such as this example vase. Notable stylistic attributes of these Ding wares are the white color or gray-white color stoneware body, the robust, simple shapes, the creamy white glaze, and the extremely sculptural form with a clear articulation of the body, the neck, and the lip. The 5 Dynasties period was a very unstable part of Chinese history, and it was not a conducive time to develop the ceramic industry. In fact, some types, such as the Tang 3 color wares, actually went out of production completely. Much of the Song dynasty periods were peaceful and economically stable. The Song period was, in fact, a golden age for artistic development in painting and ceramics. The developing economic situation allowed for the emergence in China of a mercantile class and a bourgeois class who could commission artists and who could purchase beautiful ceramic porcelain wares. The founding and early Song emperors, they wished to depart from the feudal warfare and hereditary rulers of the Tang dynasty previously. The founding and early Song emperors instead turned to Confucius, especially the original teachings of Confucius from the ancient times. This was done as opposed to continuing the interpretations offered by the Han and Six Dynasties courts. And the revival of the original principles of Confucius is known as Neo-Confucianism or New Confucianism, and this dominated southern China. Both the Confucianism of the Six Dynasties and Tang dynasties and the Neo-Confucianism of the Song dynasty, both interpretations of Confucius directly and visibly influenced Chinese painting. And that's in regards to the imagery, the brushwork, the calligraphy, and the aesthetics of Chinese painting during those time periods. This does not happen in Chinese ceramics, probably because ceramic vessels were created with focus on functionality, design, accuracy, quality, and durability. There were also factors of scale and production because Chinese ceramic wares became one of the most in-demand exports to the West. During the Song dynasty, the most prolific quantities of Suzhou wares came from the Ding kiln. And the Song dynasty period Ding ware had generally three classifications. It is Suzhou ware because it was created geographically in the Suzhou region of northern China. It is Ding ware because it was produced in the Ding kiln. And it is white stoneware because of the clay. It was made from the type of white color or gray-white color stoneware body discovered and developed during this time. The surface design pattern of the white stoneware, white glazed Suzhou Ding vessels could be classified into three types. The surface design on this wine pot or teapot was made by carving away the thick white slip to expose the inner body surface of the vessel, then covering it entirely with a transparent glaze. After firing, the finished result is a striking dark and light surface design. The surface design on this Meiping Suzhou vase shows a carving method in which the vessel is covered with a dark slip and the background is carved away. Then the cutaway areas are filled in with a white color slip. After firing, the finished result is a smooth figure ground surface design. This is one of the examples of the peony flower motif, which is well known in Suzhou wares from the Ding kiln. The Suzhou ware pillows were also very popular and produced in large quantities at the Ding kiln. Here, the pillow shows a decorative approach of painting directly onto the white surface with a dark colored slip and a brush. And often the designs featured plant and animal figures, such as this bird. This Suzhou ware pillow shows the same decoration approach of painting directly onto the white surface. These were actual pillows for sleeping. They were used to keep the head cool on summer nights. These pillows were also used ceremonially for funerals. They were buried with deceased family members in the tomb. This shallow dish with incised peony designs is from the Northern Song dynasty period. It has three classifications. It is Suzhou ware because it was created geographically in the Suzhou region of northern China. It is dingware because it was produced in the Ding kiln, and it is porcelainware because of the specific clay body type and the extremely hot, prolonged firing process used to create it. True porcelain was the hard paste type made from kaolinite, which is a soft and usually white-colored clay mineral, and this was combined with other silicate and other sheet silica materials. It was mixed with water to create a paste. Then it was wheel thrown into the shapes of jars and plates and saucers and so on. The items were dried and fired for many hours at extremely high temperatures. The chemical formation of porcelain only occurs above 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit in order to sustain vitrification. Vitrification transforms the silicate paste into a non-crystalline impermeable glass solid. After removal from the fire and cooling, the finished porcelain ware is translucent or semi-translucent. The body is very hard and acoustically resonant. If it was struck with a wooden spoon, it would have a beautiful sound, and it was resistant to thermal shock. Also in northern China, near the Suzhou, was the Ru kiln. The Ru kiln was the imperial kiln of the northern Song dynasty court. It was located in the Henan province. Ru-ware porcelain was very precious and luxurious. It rivaled the southern imperial porcelain wares. Ru-ware was prized for its lustrous glaze and the tiny, very fine, delicate crackling. The crackling was superficial and did not interfere with functionality. Rather, it gave a delicate, translucent surface quality that was smooth to the touch. In order to make sure, again, that this is clear, this particular example from the Song dynasty period has 3 classifications. It is northern imperial ware because it was produced at the kiln for the northern Song dynasty court. It is Ru ware because it was produced in the Ru kiln. And it is porcelainous stoneware because of the specific clay body type and the extremely hot and prolonged firing process in which it is created. The other kiln in northern China was the Jun kiln. It was located in the Henan province, very close to Suzhou. The Jun kiln mainly produced opaque glazed porcelain wares in very rich jewel tones: rose purple, begonia red, eggplant purple, fresh green, sky blue, and of all the Jun wares, those porcelains in red and purple colors were the most valuable. Tea drinking was already established among the ruling class and wealthy aristocracy, but the Song dynasty coincides with tea drinking among the populace. This is when working people start to drink tea. Simple and affordable ceramic wares were created for the daily serving and drinking of tea, which working people could afford to buy and use. Artistically, ceramic wares for serving tea and drinking tea continued to develop in the Song dynasty. In the south, the 2 classic kilns were both located in Yu. These 2 kilns were the Imperial Kiln, also known as the Guan Kiln, and the Longquang Kiln, also known as the Ge Kiln. The Longquang Kiln, or Ge Kiln, produced beautiful celadon wares, or green wares in porcelain, such as the elegant small dish in this slide. The production of porcelain in China required effort, trial and error, teamwork, creativity, and ingenuity. But perhaps most important was the development of a wood-burning kiln that could achieve and sustain a firing temperature high enough to actually make porcelain. And it was achieved, actually, in the mountains and high hills of southern China through the use of dragon kilns. What are these dragon kilns? The image in this cross-section elevated view allows us to see the dragon kilns' most essential components and their functions. Dragon kilns were used in southern China and built upwards onto the hillside. They used wood fire, which burns hotter than coal fire, and the kiln was built up a hill, angled upwards, with the vents at the highest point. These parts are numbered 1 through 7. Number 1 is the door. This door was about 75 centimeters in width, which is wide enough for workers to open the door and enter into the space to load the kiln, put the ceramic vessels in the kiln. It also was a sufficiently sized door to allow workers to open and close it to add more firewood. Number 2 is the fire pit. That is where the actual wood is burning and the heat source is being produced. 3 is the slope with stacking floors made of silica sand, where the unfired ceramic pots were loaded for firing. Number 4 are the dampers to regulate the airflow. There was one damper for starting the fire and one to tightly shut the flue. Number 5 is the flue. A flue is what directs the exhaust from the fire pit to the chimney. Number 6 is the actual chimney, the means by which exhaust and smoke escaped. And number 7 is a large cast arced lid that served as the top of the kiln, and it was made of a heat-resistant cement. When fully operational, the wood-burning dragon kiln in the hills of southern China would achieve and sustain a firing temperature high enough to actually make porcelain, which again occurs only above 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. And the results are seen here in this exquisite Celadon porcelain ware from the Longquan kiln, or the Ge kiln. Celadon porcelain developed from the yew wares of the past, with the gray-colored stoneware clay and the green-colored glaze, including the green ware of the Six Dynasties period. By the time of the Song Dynasty, with these 5 classic kilns, new applications and new techniques were used to create Celadon porcelain wares in southeastern China. This incense burner, in the form of an archaic gui, is an example of vivid green turquoise color Celadon porcelain ware. This Celadon porcelain type was purposely made with veins on the surface. The glazed surface is covered with numerous tiny crackles. The particular vase was created to replicate a tsang. A tsang is a type of funerary sculpture from Neolithic China, pre-Bronze Age China, and it was reborn as a porcelain ceramic Celadon ware. These particular ceramic wares represent the result of painstaking efforts in medieval China to create forms that looked like jade. Jade is an incredibly hard colored stone of high value. Jade was the material originally used to create song thousands of years previously in Neolithic China and pre-Bronze Age China. And here is a larger view of this beautifully made Celadon porcelain ware from the Longquan kiln. The Imperial Guan kiln produced the Southern Imperial wares, or Guan wares, which specifically refer to ceramics from the official kiln administered by the court of the Southern Song Dynasty. The stunning results of the dragon kiln technology in southern China are well evidenced in the porcelain wares from the imperial Guan kiln. Artistically, the imperial wares or Guan wares were simple and elegant, such as the example here, the gallbladder shaped vase, with rich olive green colors. This type of Guan imperial ware was purposely made with the veins on the surface. The glazed surface is covered with numerous crackles, and the crackling here is particularly prominent. It appears as veins over the surface of the entire body, but it is in fact smooth to the touch. This incense burner, also from the imperial kiln or the Guan kiln, is also exhibiting the same crackling, but the crackle here is finer. It's more delicate, and the veins are found all over the body. The bone is very thin but very durable. The glaze is rich and lustrous. Like the Longquan ware Celadon porcelain vase that was shaped like a song, these imperial Guan wares are also the result of painstaking efforts to create forms that looked like jade. We have reviewed the 5 classic kilns of the Song dynasty. The 3 kilns of the north were in or around the Sizhou region, and the Ding kiln would be the largest and most prolific, and the Ding kiln was in Sizhou. The 2 other classic kilns in the north were the Ru kiln and the Jun kiln. In southern China, particularly southeastern China, in the Yu region, were the 2 remaining classic kilns, the imperial kiln or the Guan kiln and the Longquan kiln or Ge kiln.